Hi everyone and welcome to DreamSpace TV here in One Microsoft Place in Dublin. My name is Amanda.
And I'm Corey.
In today's episode we are going to learn about coding, what coding is, why it's important, and we're going to start coding a microbit. So excited?
So excited. But before we get started on that, let's recap on our last episode. Because in our last episode, we created a tower that was at least 40 centimeters tall and was able to withstand a shake. Amanda's tower stood tall at 50 centimeters, and she called hers the milkshake tower, which doesn't surprise me because she loves milkshakes. She doesn't stop talking about them. But there was one small problem, and that's fine because we can just fix it. Amanda's tower fell over when she shook it.
Well, it's kind of a big problem. So yeah, as we saw in our last episode, my tower did not withstand the shake. So I had to go back and have a look at it and see what went wrong. But I think it's okay now, Corey. Will we test it again to prove to everybody?
Right, let's do it. I'll count you in.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
Woo!
Woo! Right, I'm delighted for you.
Thanks.
My tower stood strong at 42 centimeters tall. And I called mine the Pillbeg Towers, as an ode to the Pillbeg chimneys that I see out my window every single morning. So now we're ready to start coding. And remember, over the last 5 episodes, we've been preparing you for this moment because we've been getting you to think computationally. Computational thinking is the scientific, logical way of thinking that we use when we code. So I think they're ready. But what exactly is coding? Myself and Amanda have thrown around the term coding this and coding that. But all coding is, it's just a language that us humans use to talk to computers. Okay, so it's no different to any languages that you learn in school, maybe like Irish or French or Spanish. It's just simply a language that us humans use to be able to tell the computer to solve a problem or perform a task. But why is coding so important?
Well, coding is so important because it's behind every single technology we use. So imagine, Corey, if we didn't have people who could code, none of this technology we use every day would be working. Now would be a good time to pause and think about different technologies that you might use every day that use code. So things you might have thought of there would have been websites or apps, computer games, maybe even a computer. And all of those things are right, aren't they, Corey?
Yep.
And a lot of people use these technologies in their everyday lives, maybe in their work lives, for example. And work is really changing. How people do work is really changing, even in areas such as agriculture or finance or medicine, areas where maybe they didn't use a lot of technology, now they do, because it actually helps them do their jobs. Technology, remember, can also help people in their everyday lives. So we looked at a few episodes how AI and technology could be used to help the planet.
Exactly.
And specifically to help take care of endangered animals, which we really enjoyed actually, didn't we?
Yeah.
We also have a really favourite app that we look at here in DreamSpace called Seeing AI. And this app helps people who are visually impaired. So it's a really cool way, again, to show how coding and apps can help people. So we might show them, will we?
Yeah, let's.
Okay, so I'm going to get this going here now. So I'm going to open up my app, Seeing AI.
0 faces.
And as you can hear, it's already talking to me, telling me what it's looking for around. Now actually down the bottom of my app there's lots of categories, so I can actually decide what I'm actually trying to understand. So remember, this is for people who are visually impaired, who can't see very well. So the audio is going to tell them what's around them. I'm going to select person. If it's okay with you, Corey,
Yep.
use an example to show how it can scan and identify if there's a person in the room. Is that okay?
Sounds good.
Perfect. So I'm going to hold up my camera.
1 face near top edge. 1 face near center. 3 meters away.
Perfect. So 1 face near center, so in the center of my camera, and they are 3 meters away. So that's very clear for someone who maybe can't see very well to know that there is a person and they're roughly 3 meters away from them. That's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, it can do a little bit more. Do you want to look at that, Corey?
Yeah.
Okay. So if it's okay with you, I can actually select for it to actually just take a photo and look in that photo for a person, because remember, that's the category that we're on. Are we happy to do that?
Let's do it.
Okay, so I'm going to hold this up now. I'm going to select on Corey.
28-year-old woman with brown hair looking happy.
Wow, okay. So it's saying a 28-year-old woman with brown hair looking happy. I'm glad you're happy.
I'm very happy.
So it's not only identifying an age there, It's really interesting. It's also identifying hair color and how happy the person is. Isn't that amazing?
I love it.
And all of that is done through code. So when we think about coding, remember a couple of episodes ago, we talked about algorithms and how they can be step-by-step instructions or a formula to figure stuff out. Now will be a good time to pause and write out what you think the algorithm is that this app is using to identify what it just did. The algorithm that the app was using there was based on the input it was getting from the camera. So when you think about it, I held up the camera, the information around went in through the camera lens, and then the algorithm figured all that out. Then we heard an output, which was audio. So that's really, really cool, isn't it?
So cool.
Now that was using AI, so it was a little bit more advanced maybe than some of the algorithms we'll work on in the next few episodes, but it just shows you that when we begin to code and look at these things, that's how advanced we can get, and we can really, really help people.
Now, today we are going to start coding with the microbit. Now, the microbit doesn't have AI, artificial intelligence, built into it, so it can't make decisions for itself, but it can still do some really, really cool things. The only difference is we have to be really, really specific with the code that we give it or with the instructions that we give it. So let's take a closer look at the microbit and the different features that it has to it. So as you can see on my screen here is the virtual microbit in all its glory.
Looks great.
I love it. So it has 25 LED lights, which we can do such cool things with. And Amanda's actually going to showcase this later on. It also has inputs. And inputs is when the microbit is able to take information from its environment. So for example, it has these gold pins down the bottom. And with these pins, we can actually connect it to other gadgets. It also, if you look closely, it has two what is known as buttons on either side. So it has an A button and has a B button. And as the user, we can actually use these, can't we, Amanda? It also has so many other cool inputs, such as a temperature gauge, so it can tell the temperature. It has a motion sensor, so it can know if you're moving around or not. And apart from inputs, I think the coolest thing that this has is a Bluetooth antenna. So It can actually talk to other devices. So I think they're ready to start coding. Amanda, what do you think?
Yeah.
Let's get this show on the road.
Okay. Now, before I take over from here where Corey is, I want to show you how we actually get here. So I'm going to go to a new tab in my internet browser, and I'm going to come up to my web address, and I'm going to type in makecode.microbit.org. Okay, got that right? makecode.microbit.org. Go. Right, and when we do that, we arrive onto this page, and you can see there's the project that Corey was actually already in, so it's automatically saved that. And on this page, there's lots of other cool things that you can look at again. But we want to go from a new template. So we're going to go new project. So I'm going to click on this one. And then I have to name my project so that I know how it saves. And I'm going to call it DSTV. And after I've named it, I can click create. Perfect. So now we're into the blank page that we need to be in. There's the name of my project. I can click save if I want to, and I think I'm good to go. So let's look at our coding options. When we look at the screen that we have in front of us here, as Corey said, here is our microbit. So if you're looking at this screen, you'll see, okay, we have images, but actually these are simulators. And what we mean by that is it will actually allow us to test our code. So you don't actually need the real microbit to be able to carry on with what we're going to do here now. We also have all of these categories, don't we, Corey?
Yep.
And they're color coded, which is going to be really handy because we'll know then that if I see a green block over here, I must have gotten it from the green category, for example. Okay, so if I go into the blue category, I have all of these blue blocks. All right, so, and I can simply select to bring them in. So will I just grab one?
Yeah, grab the one that's jumping out at me is the show icon.
Okay. So I'm going to just move down here. Now I'm able to touch my screen. This is a pretty cool screen. Yeah. It's okay. You might have a touch screen. You might have to use your mouse, whatever way it works, but just grab on a block and drag it in. Now, I'm just going to put it here for a second because this seems to be the area that I'm going to be doing my coding in, Corey.
Yep.
Yeah? So I'm going to leave it there, and I was hoping that when I brought that in, I would see my icon of a love heart, but there's no sign of it. Any ideas, Corey?
Well, how I'm looking at it is, it actually looks like jigsaw pieces. So do you have to put that inside another block for it to be active?
Yeah. So as you can see, these blocks have little shapes to them, I suppose. And as they're like jigsaw pieces, they're going to click into place. So I might decide that my instruction is going to say on start, which I'm assuming means when the microbit starts, then do something. Because remember what coding is. It's just step-by-step sets of instructions, isn't it, Corey?
Yep.
So we're going to grab show icon and let it go in. And see the way it's highlighting in yellow there? That means it's going to click into place. So I'm going to let that go. And now let's see, does my simulator show me? Aha!
Ah,
happy days.
That's so cool.
So what's really cool is you might see that there's an arrow beside the icon there, the love heart, and that means that we have options. So you'll see this across lots of blocks, but let's check it out. So I'm going to click on the arrow, and you can see I have lots of different options in here. Corey, maybe you can pick one out for me. Anyone jumping out at you there?
What about the happy face?
Aha, I see it. This one here?
Yeah.
So I'm going to click on that. And before I click on it, I want you just to think about this. When I click this, my instruction is going to be show icon, smiley face. So there we go. So that's how simple it is. We're given instructions for this microbit to follow, and it's doing exactly what we're saying because we're being really, really clear. Sometimes we can go further than that. We don't just have to do one thing here. Nope. We could say show an icon of a smiley face, then show me the icon of a love heart, and maybe then show me another one. Yep. How about that? So I'm going to go back into basic, and I'm going to go and grab another block, and I'm going to let that go in.
Yep.
So we'll leave maybe, that's our second instruction there, or our second display, and then we'll go for our third one. And maybe this time, Corey, I'll pick, and I'll go with duck.
Love it.
So now we should have 3 things flash up, if our code's right. 2, 3. Happy days.
So that's our sequence of instructions.
That's my sequence, exactly. So what we're trying to show you here is it's really up to you. You are in charge of the code and you're in charge of the instructions and the order as well. You might decide, I want the duck to be first. So then you grab the block, bring it up to the top like that. It'll highlight for you. You let it pop in and voila, the duck is first. Happy days. Now, Corey talked about some other things that the microbit does as well. So one of the words you said actually, Corey, was input.
Yep.
So remember, an input was how the microbit took information from its environment. So one of those things might be that we, as the person using the microbit, might decide that we want to hit this button A. And right now, when I hit A, nothing is happening. And it should happen if the code is right. But actually, speaking of it, I don't see any code in here, Corey, do you?
No.
Okay, so I'm going to go into input, and I'm going to drag out this instruction, on button A pressed. I think this is exactly what we're looking for. I'm going to drag this one in, and I'm going to leave that there. So let's think about this. What do we want the microbit to do when we press A, Corey? Any ideas?
Well, let's pop back into basic.
Have a look. Yeah,
have a look.
Yeah. Okay, what's in here?
What about show string? What's that?
Okay, show string. All right, this is one of the favorites I think that we have in DreamSpace, because if we bring out show string, and remember, we need to tell the microbit when to show the string. It needs to be very clear. So we'll tell it to do it when we press A. Okay, now at the moment the string says hello. So a string is basically a lot of times letters, but you could have numbers or you could have symbols, like we have an exclamation mark here. So I'm going to go ahead and in here, I'm going to delete the word hello. And instead, I'm going to type, oh, I'm spelling it wrong. I'm going to type DreamSpace, because that's where we are. Okay, now what's so important is as we code, we keep testing our code.
Yeah.
Because like when we were doing our other challenges, there can be mistakes, and we call them bugs. And we need to find them as quick as possible, because otherwise it can be pretty hard to find out where the mistake was. So I'm going to just test, did this work? So I need to press button A, but I don't have my microbit, so what do I do, Corey?
Well, you could use your virtual microbit, because remember I said the virtual microbit actually has 2 buttons as well.
Yes.
So why don't you press button A on your simulator?
Right, let's do it. So I'm going to come up here, I'm going to click on A. Yay!
Ah, so cool.
Okay, and my string is scrolling across my screen. So that's the basics of how it works. There's one other thing I'm going to show you, which is how we delete a block, because sometimes you might say, actually, on A, I don't want a string at all, I want another icon, or I'm going to take my love heart down and move things around. So I don't want this anymore, so I can either pick it up and drag it over to my category here, or I can just click on it and click delete if you're using a laptop, so it just depends. But I always do this even if I'm using a laptop.
Yeah, same.
I drag it over, a bin appears, and I let it go, and it's gone. And now I might say, actually on A, I want my love heart instead. So I bring that block in instead, and I can just check that works because that's my habit I'm in.
Yeah, keep
and I
testing.
hit A. Yeah, it's working. So now would be a good time to pause and just get familiar with how MakeCode and for the microbit works. So move around the blocks, try out something new. You don't have to copy exactly what I did because remember, you're in charge of the code. So hopefully now you're familiar with how the app works and how we can move things around. But when we code, we normally have a specific thing in mind or a specific reason to code. It's not just playing around. We want to do something.
Yeah.
In our last episode, we created our towers. And we told you that we were going to link our coding to our towers, which we're going to do.
Yeah.
But before we do that, we're going to plan out the code. Because again, people who code, they don't just start coding, they really think about it before they start. So let's go and do that, Corey. We make a plan?
Okay, let's do it.
Okay. Now, across the last few episodes, these are the steps we've been following. We haven't been necessarily coding, but we have been making things and computationally thinking. And we've been going planning, we do it, and we review. And that's really important. We're going to keep that kind of sequence of steps as we go. So we're going to start with our plan now.
Right.
So Corey, last day with the tower, we talked about naming your tower, getting your tower height, wasn't it? So I'm going to just write these two things down.
So get the name.
Okay, thank you. So tower name.
The tower height. And what if we get the microbit to display an animation? So like
oh, cool.
a little animation.
Okay, so that's one we're going to add. So we're going to add display and animation. So we'll talk about that in a minute about how we can get the microbit to do that.
And then finally, probably the most important one was we wanted to actually sound an alert if our tower was to shake.
Okay, because we were talking about earthquakes. So that's a really good idea. Could our microbit alert us if the tower moves? Okay, very good. So I'll say alert system?
Yeah.
Okay, alert system. Right, so with our plan, we know this is what we want our microbit to achieve. So now let's figure out how we're going to do this. Now, we're going to take a specific approach here, but you could take a different approach. And that's what's, again, really important. Remember, with the code, it's up to you. But what we do want you to do is try and include all of these aspects. How you do that is how you can put your own spin on it. So let's go in and start with tower name, Corey. So when do we want the name to appear of our tower?
Well, I would do it on start.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that you have to do yours on start. You might need to do yours on an input. But for me, I'm going to say on start, I want to show my tower's name.
Okay, we'll go with your plan for the moment. So we're going to say when the microbit starts, so on start, and then we want to see the tower name. So what are we going to use there based on what we've seen already, maybe?
We're going to use a string.
Okay, so we're going to say on start, we want to show the string. And then instead of hello, which is the one that's automatically there, we can change it and I can say milkshake tower.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Tower height. Now you made a good point there about how we could use inputs.
Yeah.
I've already shown everyone on button A, but there's another button. There's a button B. So I think for my tower height, I'm going to use button B and I might use A later on. So I'm going to say on button B. And then what's height going to be, Corey?
Well, when I was watching you going through the basic blocks, I did spot a block of code that said show number.
Okay, perfect. That's what we'll use. So because we want to change it up a little bit.
Yeah.
So we'll use show number, and then in the number area, we'll enter our tower height. Okay, perfect. Animation then. So this is where I might use A, if that's okay. I'm going to jump in and do on button A. And I'm actually not sure how we're going to do the animation. So
No.
maybe when we go into our app, we'll have a look at this.
Yeah.
But at least we know our start and instruction is going to be when
Yeah.
we press A. And then how the animation works, we'll figure out when we
Figure
go.
that out as we go.
Okay. And finally, alert system. So remember, this is meant to be related back to our earthquake.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
Well, can we use some sort of like music or like a tone or...
Yeah, we can.
Or even we could use a string.
We could, yeah.
Because we could say there's an earthquake happening. So we
Yeah.
actually have many options here.
With lots of options. But what about, how's it going to react? What's the input here?
Well, it needs to be an earthquake.
Yeah.
So we need somehow for the microbit to be able to pick up that there's a shake happening. And
Okay.
if you remember, one of the sensors that I said I had was that it was able to pick up movement.
Okay.
So it might be able to do that.
So we'll need to check. I'm going to write movement here. So we'll check what options we have maybe with movement.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. And then when it moves, we have options there. Like you said, we could use a string. We could use some sounds potentially.
Yep.
So we'll do both. I'll write both in. Remember, we can come back to our plan and check afterwards. Okay, now that looks like a lot. And you may think, well, we could have just gone and done that. But actually, I feel a lot better now that I've made my plan.
Same.
So now will be a good time to pause and make your plan for how your microbit's going to work with your tower. Right, so plan is here. I'm going to go back to my screen and let's have a look at my microbit. Now remember, the code we looked at earlier is actually already on the screen. And I don't want this because I have a different plan in mind.
Yep.
So I'm going to start deleting things.
Yep.
So like we said earlier, we're going to drag and drop them.
Over to the bin.
Gone. Okay, now Corey, my plan is gone, so I'm hoping you remember
Yes.
what we had on the screen.
I do.
So I know we said on start we were going to do something.
Yes, we are going to actually display the tower's name.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to go into basic and I'm going to go show string. And remember, I'm going to click this into place. And in here, instead of string, we're going to go tower name. I'll actually use your one. Sorry, I'm going to have to move over here. Okay,
Poolbeg chimneys.
how could I forget?
Oh, actually, but it was an ode to them, so it was the Poolbeg Tower.
Poolbeg tower.
Just to be more specific.
Okay. Poolbeg tower. Okay, now on start, we should see this. There we go.
Woohoo!
Working, so I'm happy enough. The second thing we wanted to do was display our tower height.
And you said that you wanted to do this on button B.
I did. So let's go and find button B. I'm going to hop into input. And I cannot see button B. So if you want to have a look, if you're watching now and be thinking to yourself, where is B? And I can guarantee that you're probably screaming now saying, there's an arrow, right? And you would be correct. So if I bring in on button A, there is an arrow. And remember, that means we have?
More options.
Yeah, so hit the arrow. And actually, there's more. Corey, there's A and B as well. So there's 3 ways to use the buttons. I can hit A on its own, B on its own, or I can hit A and B together. So I'm going to go with B. And then you said you spotted show number.
Show number. Yeah, it's the first block.
Bring that one in. And Corey, what was the height of your Poolbeg tower?
It was there in about 42-ish centimetres.
Okay, perfect. So delete 0, remember? So I'm just touching on 0, getting rid of that because that's not the number we want. It wasn't 0 centimetres.
No.
And we tell the microbit instead, show us the number 42. Okay, so will I go straight on now?
No. You
Right.
need to test this as you go, remember.
Oh, okay, thank you. So we are going to test this. Remember, we want to see, well, when are we asking the microbit to show us the number? We're asking it to do it when we press B, aren't we?
Yep.
So I'm going to go ahead and press B. Oh, it's still finishing its string, so that's actually a good point. Sometimes it has to finish its code. So right now, it has to finish what it's saying. We can't override that one. So we're going to hit B.
Woohoo!
42. Happy days. Okay, right. So that was number 2. Let's have a quick check of our plan. So we have tower name done,
Yep.
tower height done, animation, and we said we'll do it on button A, but we better check and figure out how we do this. Okay, so let's go back. Right, so on button A, remember I go to my input, going to bring this one in, and I'm going to move this over here.
Give yourself more room.
Okay, so let's think about what an animation actually is. So it tends to be a series of images.
Yep.
And we see movement a lot of the time with an animation, don't we?
Yep.
So let's have a look. My go-to category when I'm just playing around and trying to figure things out is basic.
Same.
Because there's always lots of nice things in here. And if I think about it, I could use icons, maybe, but I want my animation to be of my tower.
Yeah.
So what about this one?
Yeah, because then that means if we bring out show LEDs, we can create our own icon.
Aha.
So we can make it look like our tower.
So this is just an empty matrix of these LED lights. There's 25 empty spaces, which are each light. Very cool. So I'm looking at the shape of my tower. Let me go and grab it here. Hopefully it doesn't fall apart as I move it. See, I'm just proving that I did fix it. Okay. And if I think about it, so it's kind of wide on the bottom.
Yeah.
And then it comes in narrowly, and then it kind of goes a little bit wider at the top.
Yeah.
So I might try and do that.
Try your look at it.
But I don't want this just to be an LED light.
You want it to be an animation.
I want it to move. So how about I build just the bottom first?
Yes.
I'm going to turn these ones on. And then I want to go layer by layer so that it looks like it's moving.
I love it.
How about that?
Okay, yes.
So I'm going to just zoom out so that we can see it all come together a little bit. So I'm going to do one, and actually I might do kind of start bringing it in. And then I'm going to just basically copy that, but then add a bit as I go. So it goes kind of narrow for a while. We'll go again.
I'm looking forward to seeing this animation, I
hope it works.
Then it's a little bit wider then, isn't it?
Yeah,
The cup.
and then I think it comes back out with the cup then, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that?
Ah, very good.
Okay. Now I'll zoom out just so we can get that in full, because I know that's a lot of blocks. Oh, God, I really have to zoom out. Now, that's quite small, I know. But you can see there's quite a long sequence there. So on button A, this light, then this light, then this light, then this light. Will we test it?
Let's do it.
Okay, so on A. Aha.
I love it.
Okay. Now, I would love if that just happened a couple of times. So instead of me having to do all this again, I want everyone to think back to a couple of episodes ago when we talked about how instructions could happen a couple of times over.
Yeah.
So Corey, hopefully everyone's remembered. What are we looking for here?
Loops.
Loops. And if you look carefully at the category here, we have a category called loops. So I'm going to hop in here. And I'm going to see, sorry, I'm going to zoom back in because I think that's a little bit zoomed out. There we go. So I'm going to hop in and I'm going to get my repeat block. So we were doing an obstacle course, how could I forget it? And I had to hop over my hurdle 3 times.
Yeah.
So I was told repeat that 3 times. In this case, we want to repeat our animation. So I'm going to grab that one and I'm going to drop that in. Now, let's see. Do you think that's going to work? We'll test it. Let's see.
Yeah.
I'm going to check, does that work? Now, this has to happen all the time. We might move that out in a second. So I'm going to press A. And I thought I was going to do 4 times, but let's have a look and see how clear our code is here. We might have to debug here. So when I'm pressing A, repeat 4 times, do nothing.
Yeah.
And then do this. So looks like we need to move that inside so it knows exactly what to repeat. Okay, very good. And I'm going to just take out my on start instruction for 1 sec, Corey, if that's okay.
Yes.
So that doesn't have to move across all the time
that.
for a second. And I'm going to now test my code. 1, yes. 2, 3, 4. Okay.
Love it.
Happy
So
days.
good.
There's my loop. Very good. All right. Happy enough. Right, let's check the plan. That's our animation done. We've figured that one out. And the final one was an alert system. I'm not going to do this in full. We're going to just maybe start everyone off on this one and then we'll wrap up. Okay. So let's see. I'm going to go back in and I can see here we talked about how a movement could be picked up as an input.
Yes.
So we're going to go into input and have a look here now. Corey, what do you think?
On shake.
Yes, it's actually perfect.
Yeah.
It's exactly what does an earthquake do? It shakes the ground. Like it couldn't be any better. So on shake. Now, hopefully people are as excited as I am when they notice there's an arrow there. and it means there's options. So just out of interest, let's see what other options there could have been for movements. So I'm going to hit that arrow, and you can see there's tons of things. Logo up, logo down, screen up, screen down. We can tilt it.
Yeah.
Free fall, which is basically if we let the microbit go. So this microbit here, if I literally dropped it to the floor, that'll pick up a free fall. And then we have these kind of figures here, which sometimes confuse people. They see these 3G, 6G, 8G. That's just the acceleration of the movement, so how forceful it is. So that could technically work as well if we were thinking about how aggressive is the shake that happens. Yeah. But we'll go with the basic on shake for the moment.
Okay.
So I'm going to stop there, and now would be a good time to pause and for you to think about what you're going to do inside that on shake block.
So now that you have your plan done, it's time for you to complete this challenge at home or in school. So the first thing that you need to do is log on to makecode.microbit.org to complete this challenge. Now, don't forget to name your tower, display your tower's height, come up with your own creative animation, and finally, very importantly, make sure that you have something on the input on shake so that your tower knows if an earthquake has happened.
Thanks for watching today's episode of DreamSpace TV. We hope you've enjoyed beginning your coding journey with us, and we look forward to keep going with that in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.